Well, the war has had enormous impact on the Middle East and with repercussions around the world. Will Israel be able to continue to pursue its main objective of totally eliminating Hamas from all of Gaza? Or will Netanyahu yield to the intense pressure from the Biden administration to call an end to the war?
The pressure is truly intense, and the Biden administration has imposed threats upon Israel and used threats upon Israel, opened aggressive attacks on Israel in the middle of this war that are unprecedented. The Biden administration has now announced that they're going to impose sanctions, freezing the bank accounts, potentially.
This is really very current news.
Like a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Freezing the bank accounts
of anyone who goes against their vision for peace in the Middle East. That could be anybody. Now, this was what they called the ban on violent settlers, the sanctions against violent settlers. But when you read the sanctions order, it doesn't use the word violent. It's not limited to violence. It's not limited to settlers. It applies to anyone who destabilizes the prospects for peace in the Middle East. Now, given that we know the administration thinks peace in the Middle East means Palestinian state, anyone who is against that, anyone who supports Jews living in Judea and Samaria, can be sanctioned by the United States. When at the same time, the leadership of UNRWA, which built apparently the Hamas headquarters, was hiding the Hamas headquarters, are not being sanctioned. The Palestinian Authority, which has a pay-for-slay scheme, is not being sanctioned. So what that is a threat to Israeli leaders, basically. We can sanction you. If you're defending Jews living in Judea and Samaria, if you're protecting them, even soldiers who are protecting them, government officials who are protecting them, we can impose the kind of sanctions on you we only impose on Putin.
You're right.
So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure, and there's various other pressure points. But at the same time, Biden doesn't paint such a great deal. He says, I demand you end the war now. And then as soon as you end it, we're going to make a Palestinian state. Well, that certainly makes the prospect a lot less attractive. End the war now, and we go straight to a Palestinian state. Well, we might as well at least beat Hamas on the way. That is to say, there's no carrot. It's all stick. And that, because he's not really trying to incentivize Israel here. He is trying to appeal to his base in advance of November.
And as you probably also would agree with me, it isn't Biden at all. It's Barack Obama who's making these decisions.
Right. So I don't know who's calling the shots.
Well, it's obvious to me who's calling the shots.
Clearly, there's been a lot of continuity between the administrations, and issues like this are often led by senior staff. So when I say Biden, I mean the Biden administration. Certainly Secretary Blinken is leaning in on this. But we see the policies that are being pushed now are even more hostile than in the Obama administration. If Obama gave us a bad Security Council resolution, the recognition of a Palestinian state as a result of October 7th shows them there is one way to get your political demands met: kill Jews. And then also encourage them, make it so that they kill your civilians by hiding behind them. Kill Jews and use your own civilians as human shields. That is the recipe
for success.
Yeah, that is remember, we had the Oslo Accords. Right? And if they can bypass negotiations that the President of the United States in the Rose Garden ceremony shook hands and promised simply by killing Jews, what an attractive proposition. So then if the Palestinian state, if that new Palestinian state, let's say they attack Israel, what's going to happen now?
Same thing.
If Israel defends itself, they're going to say, well, now we need to give them more of a Palestinian state.
Yeah, it's got to be bigger or something. Right. Well, we know that they won't be happy. The Arabs, the radical Muslims, who is probably most of the world, won't be happy until Islam rules the world. And it starts with killing Jews and then killing Christians and killing everybody who is who doesn't bow down to Islam.
And if the United States continued funding UNRWA while it basically became a literal cover
for Hamas,
for all of Hamas, what can they do with a Palestinian state? How can they deter? How can they restrain a Palestinian state? We see now that the only thing that matters when push comes to shove is domestic political imperatives. And when a Palestinian state launches a much deadlier October 7th, deadlier because they will have all the weapons that only a state can have. They'll have tanks and fighters. The United States, we have to think, what will be the domestic politics of the United States? If it's, another 2 years into a second Biden term, there'll be absolutely nothing holding them back.